At first, it was only little things. Small changes I told myself were normal. Part of adjusting to a new life, a new rhythm in the house. Aisha had her ways of doing things and I had mine. She liked the living room cushions in perfect symmetry. I liked them slightly uneven because it made the space feel lived in. She liked modern cooking, quick, simple meals, while I still preferred slow, traditional recipes that took time but carried the taste of home. I tried not to mind. After all, every generation has its own way. But sometimes it was in the tone. The small sighs. The polite smiles that didn't reach the eyes. One afternoon, I was frying onions for biryani, Imran's favorite dish. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and rich. When Aisha walked in, she frowned slightly. "Ammi, maybe we shouldn't cook such heavy food often," she said, opening the window. "Imran's cholesterol was high last time." Her words were sensible, but her voice carried something else, something sharp, like I had done something wrong. I smiled anyway. "Of course, Beta. You're right. I'll make something lighter next time." She nodded but didn't respond. That evening, Imran came home late. He looked tired, distracted. When I offered him food, he said, "Later, Ammi. Aisha made something special." I smiled again. Even though the biryani sat untouched on the table, the steam fading into silence. Days passed. I noticed they started eating dinner later, sometimes after I'd gone to bed. I told myself, they're young, they need their time together. But deep down, a small ache began to grow. The kind that doesn't shout, just lingers quietly. Aisha began handling most things in the house. Bills, groceries, even Imran's appointments. I used to do all that. It wasn't about control. It was about care. Now, I didn't know what was being paid or planned. It was as if my hands, once always busy with purpose, no longer had a place. Sometimes I'd find her reorganizing the cupboards I had neatly kept for years. "Oh, I thought it would look cleaner this way," she'd say when she caught me watching. I'd nod, smile, and whisper, "You're right." But every time, a small piece of me felt quietly pushed aside. I still remember one evening, a cold winter night. We were sitting together in the living room. The television was on, playing softly in the background. Aisha was scrolling through her phone, and Imran was reading something on his laptop. I looked at them, side by side, the family I had prayed for. Yet I felt like a stranger among them. "Would you like some tea?" I asked. Imran didn't look up. "Aisha just made some, Ammi," he said absently. "Oh," I whispered. "All right." It wasn't about the tea. It was about the silence that followed. A silence that filled the room thicker than the air itself. Later that night, I lay in bed, listening to the faint laughter from their room. I smiled, even as my eyes grew wet. "They're happy," I told myself. "That's all that matters." But the truth was I missed my son. He was right there, under the same roof, yet somehow further than ever. As weeks turned into months, the distance between us grew quietly. Aisha started making subtle remarks, not rude, just sharp enough to sting. "Imran gets tired when there's too much noise in the house." "Ammi, you don't need to do the laundry anymore, I've got it." Or sometimes, "Maybe you should rest more. You've done enough in life." Each time she said those words, "You've done enough," they sounded less like kindness and more like a dismissal. I didn't argue. I told myself it was better to keep peace. Imran, I think, never noticed. Or maybe he didn't want to. Whenever I tried to speak about something, he'd smile and say, "Ammi, Aisha's just trying to help. You know how she is, modern thinking." Modern thinking. That phrase began to feel like a wall between us. Then came the moment that truly opened my eyes. It was Imran's birthday. I had been planning for weeks, cooking his favorite dishes, ironing his clothes, and even saving money to buy him a new watch. That morning, I woke up early, filled the house with the smell of cardamom and fried sweets, humming softly to myself. By evening, I had decorated the table with candles and flowers. It reminded me of when he was little, how his eyes would light up at surprises. But when the clock struck 8, I heard a car honk outside. Through the window, I saw them, Imran and Aisha, dressed beautifully, smiling as they stepped out. "Happy birthday, Beta," I said as he entered, holding out the gift box. He smiled faintly, hugging me quickly. "Thank you, Ammi. But we're going out for dinner with friends." You should rest, okay? The candles flickered in front of me. Oh, I said softly. I made your favorites. He looked at Aisha, then back at me. Next time, Amy. We'll eat together next time. Next time. That night, I sat alone at the table, the food growing cold. The clock ticked loudly in the silence. I waited until midnight before I finally blew out the candles myself. It wasn't the loneliness that hurt the most. It was the realization that love doesn't always fade in anger. Sometimes it just forgets to look back. After that night, I began to stay more in my room. Not because anyone told me to, but because I didn't want to be in the way. I kept myself busy with small things, watering plants, folding laundry, reading old letters. Aisha didn't say much to me anymore. Our conversations became short, polite exchanges about meals or groceries. Imran too seemed more distant, busy with work, often out late. One day, as I sat near the window, watching the rain fall softly on the garden, I overheard them talking in the next room. Aisha's voice was low but firm. Imran, I think your mother should visit her sister for a few weeks. She needs a change. I froze. His reply came after a pause. She's fine here, Aisha. But her tone sharpened. No, she's not. She looks unhappy. And honestly, this house feels tense. Maybe a little distance would be good for everyone. My heart sank. I didn't wait to hear more. That night, I prayed long and hard. I didn't pray for her to change or for him to see my pain. I only prayed for strength. The kind that helps you accept what you cannot control. The days that followed were filled with quiet gestures that spoke louder than words. The family meals became shorter. My chair at the table felt like it was taking up too much space. Sometimes, I'd walk into the living room, and their conversation would stop. They'd smile politely, then return to their phones. One morning, Aisha came into my room and said gently, Amy, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time you go spend a few weeks with your sister in Lahore. You haven't visited her in so long. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes told the truth. It wasn't an invitation. It was a request to leave. I looked at her, smiled faintly, and said, If that's what makes you comfortable, Beta. She blinked, surprised. No, it's just for your own good. I understand, I said quietly. I'll start packing tonight. When she left the room, I sat down on the edge of the bed, my hands trembling slightly. I looked around, at the family photos on the wall, the shawl on the chair, the little prayer mat near the window. Each one held a memory, a moment that now felt like it belonged to someone else's life. And for the first time I wondered, when did my home stop being mine?